Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Gluestick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full time and include a complete playlist of all the creatures in the core monster manual and many others. Today though, we're delving back into the subterranean realm of the Underdark, but may also slip into a sewer, creep through some caves and caverns, possibly fossick around the dark floor of an ancient forest, because we are on the hunt for the cave fisher, or is the cave fisher on the hunt for us? I'll begin with reciting the short article by Timothy Lethbridge in the Ecology of the Cave Fisher from Dragon Magazine number 135, published in July 1988. Like many Ecology articles, it takes the form of a short story with Ecology notes at the end of it. Arlak cursed as the flickering torch stub burned his fingers. He dropped it on the cavern floor and lit a new one from the dying flames. It was just one more annoyance on this wretched adventure. He checked his remaining torches. 3 left. He'd spent an entire day exploring these tunnels, and he'd found nothing but animal droppings and torch stubs. Many torch stubs. These caverns were well explored. Indeed, he could imagine the jeering laughter he would hear if he came back empty-handed. But he'd show them all. He would show them all. He had to, now. Arlak sat heavily down on a nearby rock and pulled the map from his pouch. "The Caverns of Gold Light," he read at the top. A bitter joke. 70 gold just for a copy of this damn thing, but the map's name had promised treasure beyond all imagining. He'd spent the last of his inheritance on this accursed map and the equipment to make the journey, his armour, horse, sword, torches, food and water skins. But everything had gone wrong from the very beginning. His armour rusted, his horse went lame, and half his food rotted before he even reached the little village near these caverns. The only real shop in the whole hamlet was the stable. Though it was full of fine horses for decent prices, Arlak decided to buy one when he finally found the treasure, when he could laugh in the face of the innkeeper, just as the innkeeper had laughed in his. "Perchance, could you direct me to the Caverns of Gold Light?" Arlak had asked him, knowing no better. The innkeeper had roared with mirth. "No, can't say I've ever heard of them, unless you mean the Caverns of Cold Light, eh?" The entire tavern joined the innkeeper in his laughter. Arlak's face reddened at the memory. Arlak cursed and kicked at a patch of the slightly luminous fungus that grew all along the cavern walls, giving the place its true name. Without wanting to do so, he looked closely at the map once again and saw that someone had indeed altered the letter C to make it appear to be a G. Sucker bait. He'd been a fool not to have seen this before he started out, but he couldn't back out now. There was nothing left to do. Wearily, he climbed to his feet and began walking down the tunnel. Well, there, what was that? Arlak peered ahead into the dimly lit darkness. Was that a glint of gold up ahead? His depression forgotten, Arlak hurried forward and dropped to his knees in front of a pile of equipment and armour. He pawed through it. The gold was a brass buckle, nothing of value here but 3 silver coins and a leather-bound book. Arlak held the torch high in one hand and opened the book with the other. The script was surprisingly large and sloppy, but it was literate. A diary. He flipped to the last entry. "I write now this testament not for my own salvation, but as a warning for others who come this way. If you find this book, take it out with you. You are in the gravest danger. I've spent 3 days as near as I can determine in this sunlit dungeon. In that time I have learned much of the creature that holds me prey, a cave fisher. I've heard little more than tavern rumours of these creatures. What I have heard gives me little hope. What I have seen gives me less. There are 2 of these creatures, one that holds me and another on the far wall. The one that has me has also captured Gastron and Marb. The one across the tunnel caught Nimble Dessel. Almost as soon as we'd snared, Marb was butchered and eaten, his armour stripped away like a corn husk by the monster's claws, while he struggled and screamed. Then it cut off his limbs and ate him in pieces, devouring even his bones. The other fisher consumed Dessel at the same time, his shrieks of agony ringing in my ears. The fisher that caught me left myself and Gastron in its strands, secured to the ledge on either side of it. By chance, it left one of my arms free. It does me little good, though I retained my dagger. I cannot cut through the strands. I can at least write this message by this living light, many long hours after capture. The creature devoured Gastron. First, the monster dissolved his bindings with a liquid discharged from its snout. Gastron attempted to defend himself, but the creature dismembered my friend with the same ease it had Marb. I watched him die. I know that I am cursed to be the last. You who read this, beware! Make no sound as you leave this area. I have discovered that the creature is blind. The great membranes that appear to be the cavefish's eyes are actually ears. If you move your free arm as if to throw something at the creature, it makes no response. Yet my pen scratches on this page, agitated. Were I to rap my knuckles on the ledge, I fear it would attack me. The one across the tunnel seems able to unerringly capture bats. Perhaps it can hear the high-pitched cries they are reported by wizards to make. I have noticed that these fishes have piled the gear from my dead comrades beneath them in the tunnel, as if they realize that such materials will attract prey. This indicates a greater intelligence than I had heard rumoured of them, although it may simply be coincidence. The last matter I must relay to you involves the possibility of escape. When Gastron was fighting the creature, he scored a blow to its head. The blood that dripped down upon its remaining strands and bones Alec cursed as the glowing spark from the torch landed on his fingers. The torch dropped from his hand, hit the ground, and went out. Complete darkness fell. Continuing to swear, Alec felt in his pack and began to rummage around for his flint and tinder. He never felt the strand fall across his back until, with a startled cry, he was snatched off his feet. As the elf inspected the horse, the pudgy innkeeper rambled about its merits. "Yes, sir, that's one fine horse. A trifle lame, true, but it will pass in a few days. Besides, look at the price. 15 gold. You can't beat that price." The elf considered the offer in silence. Settling back to wait, the innkeeper reflected that maybe 2 days was too soon to be selling that other boy's horse. But he had a buyer now, and the boy wasn't coming back. Young, cocky, treasure-happy, his kind never came back. It was not meant for regular folk to know the sorts of things that lurked in caves and such. Why adventurers wanted to know, the innkeeper would never understand. Not that it mattered. Fools rushed in where angels feared to tread. "I'll offer you 8 gold, the elf said softly. "This poor creature is worth no more than that." The innkeeper sighed, returned to his thoughts to the matter at hand. "You drive a hard bargain. But for 10, I'll throw in an almost new saddle. How about it?" In the game, cavefishes first made an appearance in print in 1983, included in the pages of the second monster manual for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. They have remained remarkably unchanged from that original listing, but have had the lore and ecology expanded on a fair bit, and in very interesting ways, making them one of my favourite Underdark monstrosities in the game. From the beginning, one little line of text was the seed of so much awesome fun. Cavefisher blood contains a lot of alcohol, and you know what else lives in the Underdark? Dwarves, and dwarves love alcohol. Let's skip ahead and I'll expand on what we learn about them in Volo's Guide to Monsters for 5th edition, with what we know from the Ecology article and earlier editions of the game, because there's a lot more details, and well, that's why you watch my videos. So sit back, grab a beverage, we're about to get deeply nerdy. Cavefishes grow to about 7 feet or 2.1 meters long and have a hard, chitinous shell arranged in overlapping exoskeletal plates. They are a form of subterranean arachnid with a long snout that houses spinnerets, enabling the creature to produce sticky filament, much like the strands of a spider's webbing, which the creature uses to snag prey. A cavefisher has a total of 10 limbs. There are 8 legs and 2 front limbs end in powerful pincers, which are +5 to hit one target within 5 feet and inflict 2d6 +3 slashing damage, sufficient to snip off a human limb, certainly. The cavefisher has a strength of 16 and can make 2 attacks per round with its claws, which could include a grapple, but it relies mainly on its adhesive and strong filaments for that. One creature grappled by the cavefisher's adhesive filament must make a DC 13 strength saving throw, providing that the target weighs 200 pounds or 90.7 kilograms or less, which is great news for me as I weigh much more than that, for what it's worth. On a failure, the target is pulled into an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the cavefisher, and the cavefisher makes a claw attack against it as a bonus action. Reeling up the target releases anyone else who has been attached to the filament. Until the grapple ends on the target, the cavefisher can't extrude another filament. I'm just as confused as to you as to how or why the other targets stuck to the filament are released, or if their weight needs to be taken into account, so apply your common sense and best judgment during actual gameplay. I find that passage on the monster listing quite confusing. The cavefisher can also use its action to extend a sticky filament up to 60 feet or 18 meters. That is 3 times further than the creature can walk in one round, so I would call this shooting a filament. And the filament adheres to anything that touches it. I think this certainly should have the qualities of a ranged attack, using the cavefisher's dexterity of 13, so this is a +3 to hit one target within 60 feet, which is also the sensory range of the cavefisher. They are blind to anything beyond that distance. The creature adhered to the filament is grappled by the cave fisher, escape DC 13, and ability checks made to escape the grapple have disadvantage because of that adhesive. The filament can be attacked. It's got an armor class of 15 and 5 hit points. Certainly a lot less tough than it was in previous edition. Immunity to poison and psychic damage, of course. But a weapon that fails to sever it becomes stuck to it as well, requiring an action and a successful DC 13 strength check to pull it free. Destroying the filament deals no damage to the cave fisher, of course, which can extrude a replacement filament on its next turn, and most likely will. The reason the cave fisher is blind beyond 60 feet is because they are actually blind. What appears to be the eyes of the cave fisher are actually multiple ears that allow it to capture its prey in the darkness with a high degree of Doppler accuracy. They have a passive perception of 12 and are +2 to active perception checks in 5th edition, but you can add an element from 2nd edition and say that because of this method of locating its prey, the cave fisher receives a bonus to hit when striking particularly noisy prey. Give the cave fisher advantage when attacking characters moving in metal armor or those who are actively talking. Perhaps just a +1 to hit characters performing less noisy actions such as carrying bags of coins or walking on hard ground in leather boots. This can be turned against the cave fisher if the party knows about this trait of theirs, so tapping on the ground with a pole ahead of the party may induce a cave fisher to catch the pole instead. In 5th edition, the pole has an armor class of 15 from the cave fisher's perspective. The cave fisher's ears do hear sounds below and above human hearing range, which means that the cave fishers often use the skill to catch bats flying nearby. If a cave fisher is present with a number of different sounds associated with its prey, it will fire at the loudest sound first. Thus, it would choose an ogre in nailed boots over a nearby barefoot halfling. Casting a spell of silence on an area containing a cave fisher causes it to freeze as it's listening intently. It will try to defend itself with claw attacks only if it is touched or attacked, or something really thumps the ground it's standing or attached to and it can feel it. But it makes claw attacks with disadvantage, and attacks against it have advantage as it is technically blinded. A cave fisher usually hunts small animals and is certainly quite fond of bats, so it stretches its filament over an opening that such prey might travel through. But then it climbs to a hiding spot and adheres itself to the surface to rest and wait. When prey blunders into the filament, the cave fisher reels in its meal. A group of cave fishers might work together to cover a large area with filaments. But as soon as one captures potential food, every cave fisher in the area competes for the prize. They have a pecking order. If a victim escapes from the initial ambush, a cave fisher can reclaim its prey by shooting a filament out to capture it again. When the cave fishers capture more prey than it can eat, and other cave fishers are not around to steal it, it stores the extras in a manner similar to a spider's. It wraps the prey in adhesive filaments in a cocoon, almost tying down all of the victim's limbs. The fisher uses its adhesive secretions to secure the victim to a wall or ledge nearby. When the cave fisher desires to eat, it simply dissolves the bonds of the victim and dismembers them with its claws. This can lead to some interesting rescue scenarios. A cave fisher can survive on very little food, even a few bats a day if need be, but when there is a surplus available, it can gorge and consume up to 200 pounds or 91 kilograms of meat per day. Obviously, not for very long because it will be full. The filaments, the adhesive secretion, and the dissolving secretion are all discharged through the creature's proboscis. The filaments are stored in the organic winch behind the creature's head. The two sections, one being the strong adhesive, the other being the pure alcohol solvent, are stored in special frontal cavities. Once removed from a cavity, the adhesive hardens within 1 round. The dissolving secretion takes 1 round to work on any cave fisher adhesive, and it can be stored that way. The cave fisher is a pretty tough arachnid, also quite sneaky. They have an armor class of 16 and an average of 58 hit points with a maximum of 90 hit points. They're not very fast, they have a speed of 20 feet per round, but they can climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings, without needing to make an ability check, and will find a good ambush spot and adhere their feet to the surface, waiting for long periods of time completely still and silent. They are +5 to all of their stealth rolls. They have a constitution of 14 and a reasonably robust and slow metabolism. Cave fishers can live for over 100 years. Once every 20 years, the female makes a high-pitched keening sound, well above human or even elven hearing, that brings all males within 5 to 20 mile radius around them underground. The female mates with the first male to arrive, then kills him, rejecting the overtures of the others. 3 days later, she lays a group of 5 to 9 eggs inside her mate's body and moves to a new spot. The eggs hatch within a month, and the young live for a short time on the carcass of their father. 3 weeks after they're born, the young cavefishes are half grown and they leave to establish lairs of their own, scattering off in different directions. Juvenile cavefishes avoid larger creatures and are rarely encountered unless actively hunted down. The young cavefishes reach full growth roughly 1 year after they're born. Cavefisher eggs 10 days old or less are greatly prized because of their high alcohol content. They also contain other drug-like substances. A single sip of the liquid found within a cavefisher egg is enough to intoxicate a fully grown male human for hours, bringing great delusions and hallucinations. DC 13 Constitution save or be stunned for 1d4 hours. Victim is merely poisoned for that same length of time if they make the saving throw. It is really potent stuff that a dwarf will warn a human not to drink. Drinking an entire egg would kill a human. They will require medical attention or magic healing within 1d4 times 10 minutes or drop to 0 hit points and start making death saves. While dwarves and stout halflings can make DC 13 Constitution saving throws rather than die, they will either be knocked unconscious for 1d4 hours or be stunned for that same length of time if they do make the saving throw. So, pretty wicked. These fresh eggs bring 50 to 100 gold pieces each in large cities, particularly those with a strong dwarven contingent. But neither the cavefish's blood nor eggs will be consumable past 10 days from harvesting, so it's pretty tricky getting them out of the Underdark into the market. This is lore taken from older editions and updated to 5th edition rules as best I can and is optional, but I mean, why would you not include them in your game? It's awesome. Nothing says drinking contest against a dwarf has just got serious, quite like them taking out a flask of fresh cavefisher blood. In my campaigns, they alchemically treat it to make it last indefinitely, but the eggs are justifiably rare and infamous. Cavefisher lairs may have a large pile of equipment and treasure lying directly beneath them on the tunnel floor. And certainly there'll be bones and equipment stacked up on the ledges or scattered around where the cavefishers eat. Although they may have an intelligence of 3, they instinctively know that such piles have a good chance of attracting a substantial food source, but they are also wary of groups of adventurers, all cavefishers who are not died long ago, and only the offspring of the more cautious cavefishers survive. So this is as clever as their planning gets, other than having a knack for finding spots perfect for ambush in their environment. Usually with some sort of an escape route and preferably a vertical chute that is hard for other creatures to climb in pursuit and is more easily defended with their pincers' claws, as cavefishers can climb perfectly well facing forwards or backwards. Scarce food can draw a group of cavefishers up to the surface, including a shadowy canyon or a gloomy forest that features both native animal prey and creatures such as explorers or travellers, particularly merchants, and distracted sages foolish enough to travel alone with their nose buried in a book, occasionally moving through the area. Cavefishers shy away from attacking groups of humanoids unless they come across a solitary target, such as a scout or a straggler, who will suddenly face the sucker-tipped filament from with a wad of sticky goop on the end, latching onto them. On a critical hit, you may want to be really mean and say that the cavefisher, going for the most noisy part of your average player character, shot the goop wad directly into their face, so now the character can't scream for help and is facing suffocation on top of their other problems. Nearly every part of a cavefisher is useful after the creature has been dispatched. As mentioned, its blood is alcoholic and tastes like strong liqueur. Very, very strong liqueur. Several dwarven spirits include cavefisher blood as part of the recipe. Sometimes it's a secret recipe. And some dwarves, especially berserkers, drink the blood straight. You may find something like a large bottle of very strong dwarven spirits that contain what looks to be a smaller version of an actual cavefisher egg in it. Much like you may find a worm in a bottle of tequila. This isn't actually a cavefisher egg though. I've got to make that very clear. If they are gathered after being extruded, cavefisher filaments can be woven into a rope that is thin, tough, and nearly invisible, with the same basic stats as spider silk rope. Cavefisher meat is edible, tasting much like crab cooked in strong wine. The creature's shell is also used in the manufacture of tools, armour, and jewellery. The pale shell has a pearl-like sheen to it. The adhesive can be diluted and turned into a special solution that, applied to gloves and boots, greatly increases traction for climbing. While some folk hunt cave fishes to kill them for their filaments and their blood, others capture cave fishes' eggs and rear the hatchlings. Cave fishes have a natural aversion to fire since their blood is flammable and they can be controlled that way. As such, chitanes and hobgoblins sometimes use the threat of fire to train them and employ them to guard passages or as beasts of war. The reason cavefishes avoid fire like the plague is pretty obvious. In combat, once you get a cavefisher down to half its hit points or fewer, it gains vulnerability to fire, and while it's not mentioned in the listings for the creature, I see no problem with them going up like a Molotov cocktail on legs in the right conditions, but I leave the details of that up to you. It's also interesting to note that being knocked down to half hit points and having special ability activated is a feature from 4th edition, and it's what is called the Bloodied condition. I should also mention that the 5th edition Cavefisher has had its strength nerfed a bit. Previously, it could haul a target weighing up to 400 pounds or 181 kilograms, and had a strength equivalent to 20. In 5th edition, there is no mention of how many cavefishers will be found in a colony of them, but it's normally no more than 4. If there are more, that will be because of some unusual reason that your average Underdark Ranger will probably find quite curious. If you like the lore in these videos, don't forget to check out videos by fellow Forgotten Realms lore masters. Check out my recommended channels tab where I have a list of them for you to explore. Please hit the like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you like what I do, check out my Patreon, or consider becoming a member of this YouTube channel. Patrons and members form the Gluminati, who have an exclusive access to the chat forum on my Discord server and get advanced access to the videos I create. Plus, patrons get the full scripts I write for these videos, which are a lot easier to translate into other languages. I mean, just try reading the subtitle translations as Google tries to understand my accent. It's a train wreck. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.